purpose of hotels is to provide rest, leisure, and sometimes even luxury. However, what if the room you book contains more than simply the memories of previous visitors? What if it harbors something even more terrible and dark? This is the Haunted Hotel Room Horror Stories. Welcome. This evening, we explore the horrifying experiences of those who ventured to spend the night in rooms that most people would never go into. Story 1. The Shrieking Ghost of Room 306. An ancient, once magnificent hotel on the edge of Chicago is the setting for our first story. Both residents and employees were aware of the weird things that happened in Room 306. Visitors have described anything from heart-stopping shrieks that resonate throughout the night to thunderous crashing noises throughout the years. After a long day of meetings, a business traveler called Sarah checked into Room 306. She only wished for a restful night's sleep. She was startled awake, however, by an ear-piercing scream at midnight. Through the closed bathroom door, the sound was heard. Her pulse pounding, she reached for her phone and crawled, one hesitant step at a time, to the door. The bathtub was full of murky water when she opened the door. However, it wasn't all. She vowed to have seen the shape of a lady standing behind her in the mirror's image. Her lips opened in a mute cry, her face contorted in pain. That night, Sarah ran out of the room and swore she would never be seen again. A lady who killed herself in the same bathtub years ago was subsequently told by hotel officials that her ghost has been imprisoned in Room 306. Sound effects of water dripping and distant whispers. Story 2. The Endless Hallway of Room 721. Let's now go to a luxurious hotel in New Orleans, which is well known for its historic charm and, as tourists quickly learned, its paranormal guests. An odd architectural element, a passageway that seems to be longer than it is physically, is where the tale of Room 721 begins. Many visitors have complained that they feel confused and in a panic since the hallway appears to go on forever, regardless of how many steps they take. A couple celebrating their anniversary was among the guests who experienced this unnerving impact directly. As they went down the corridor after leaving their room to get ice, they had an odd feeling. The hallway's terminus continued moving further away, and the walls seemed to lengthen. They heard faint footfall behind them and saw no one else, but the lights flickered. They arrived to the elevator after what seemed like a lifetime. They were shocked as the doors opened to reveal Room 721, which seemed eerily familiar rather than a place of freedom. They backed away in panic, only to discover that each time they attempted to escape, they found themselves facing the same cursed chamber. As if the hall itself were bending to catch them, every effort to flee was foiled. Terrified and desperate, the couple quickly withdrew into their room, locked the door, and remained awake until daylight, plagued by shadows creeping under the door and faint voices reverberating down the corridor. They told the front desk about their unsettling event, anticipating dismissal when daylight finally came. Rather, the hotel personnel listened in solemn quiet before telling a chilling tale. The corridor outside Room 721 had been devastated by fire in the 1920s. Visitors and staff, ensnared by the smoke and flames, had frantically looked for a way out, only to get confused in the corridor until they died from the heat and smoke. Their souls seem to have been confined to the location ever since, repeating that futile quest for a now non-existent escape. Sound effects of crackling fire and echoing footsteps. Story 3. The Poltergeist of Room 102. A charming bed and breakfast in rural England is the source of our next tale. Despite seeming to be a small, comfortable apartment, Room 102 has a sinister secret. Objects moving on their own and a pervasive sense of being watched are common complaints from visitors. Until one night, when they had a personal encounter with the poltergeist, the owners dismissed these allegations as mere superstition. The kitchen, which shared a wall with Room 102, was where one of the proprietors, Mr. Hendricks, was working late. He heard what sounded like a violent rearrangement of furniture. He went inside the room to look around and saw the drapes torn, the chairs flipped over, and the bed pressed against the wall. The mirror on the wall, however, was what made him shiver. "Get out" was written over it, as if it were traced with a finger. Mr. Hendricks, who is not easily frightened, made the decision to spend the night in the room in order to disprove the ghost stories. However, at around 3 in the morning, he felt a freezing hand clutch his shoulder. There was nobody there when he turned. He was clearly frightened as he left the room the next morning, claiming to have sensed an evil presence there. Only the most courageous people are now permitted to enter room 102, if they dare. Story 4. The Eternal Guest of Room 13. Possibly the most heartbreaking of our stories is the last one. The ghost of John, who checked in but never checked out at a historic inn in Savannah, Georgia, is supposed to be a perpetual visitor in room 13. During his visit, John, a traveling salesman in the early 1900s, passed away inexplicably. Ever then, visitors claim to have seen a guy dressed in historical attire lost in the hallways. Mike, a history enthusiast, chose to stay in room 13 because he was captivated by the stories told about it. He was reading late at night when he heard the distinct creaking sound of a door. He first dismissed it as the peculiarities of an ancient building. However, he saw a man's form at the doorway as he glanced up. His eyes were vacant and his face was pallid. "Are you lost?" Mike inquired, more instinctively than bravely. The guy only gestured at the window before disappearing. Mike was startled, but he saw that the window was strange. It was locked, yet a wind was blowing through. When he told the innkeeper about his experience the next day, he was informed that all of the visitors who came into contact with John described the same series of events. In his life, John had attempted to escape through that very window, but was never successful. He now travels aimlessly in search of a way out. These are only a few of the stories about the haunted rooms found in hotels all across the globe. While some claim they are just urban legends, others are certain they have had unexplainable experiences. Take a minute to notice the next time you check into a hotel room. Pay great attention to all the building's groans and creaks. And if you feel like you're being watched, you can end up becoming the next victim in one of these terrifying tales of haunted hotels. Are you ready for your stay? We appreciate you coming us on this spooky tour into the realm of haunted hotels. For more spooky stories that will make you reconsider the locations you visit, be sure to subscribe if you like this one. See you next time.